Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to episode 9 of Just a Millennial. Today we're going to be talking about transparency and why a lot of us still don't get it. This is Mikey Okendo.
Mike Cherep.
And intro.
Well, I mean, do you get it? I mean, if you don't get it, it feels like...
Why are we talking about it?
It feels like the blind leading the blind.
That would be pretty stupid. I guess it's fair.
Have you ever thought about that saying, like, the blind leading the blind? Like, Stevie Wonder literally just has a random... Like, take the scene from Forrest Gump when he just decides to run, and then instead of Tom Hanks, just Stevie Wonder.
Alright guys, welcome back to episode 9 of Just a Millennial. Today we're going to be talking about transparency, which we've talked about before, but we really wanted to make a show out of it because we feel like it's an important thing and it's something really crucial to millennials. And like we said in the last episode, we really want to get back to the core of the show. We want to talk about specifically millennials, what we care about, what we think about, what matters to us. And we're getting back to that because transparency is one of those key things that we need. I think it's also important to point out, though, before we get into all this, we do believe that a lot of dealers out there watching the show, a lot of businesses out there, B2B companies are doing a much better job. I mean, we've seen the change on social media, on emails that get sent to us, on all the interactions we do over the phone, that a lot of you guys are really up in your game. Your social media game's strong. You're on Instagram. You're all over the place. You're being really, you're adapting really well. So this is, it's really positive. So we love to see that kind of change, and it's really fantastic. But I think one of the real big things we want to point out. We were just thinking about this, and it's great that so many people are taking action. It's great that so many people are actually putting plans into process to become more transparent. But we want to emphasize the fact that, especially for millennials, transparency is a mindset. It's not a set of standardized actions that you can just put into place. It really is something that you have to get going at your dealership because, I can't tell you how many places I've been to, dealerships, businesses in general, who maybe have changed part of their process. They've made it a little better, but the people, it's about the people. Like, I think we can all agree that, like, businesses are people. It's not a set of rules or guideline or processes. That's what makes the business run and function and organizes the people to allow your business to become more profitable. But ultimately, it's about people. People are going to drive your business. They're going to make it more successful. They're going to either kill it or grow it. And it seems like we're having a people problem with this transparency thing more than a process problem. And we're working on the process, but that's really what it is.
It's, for me, probably just a clear example and something that I do quite often between blogs that I write. Our show is, I reference myself all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm a very black and white person. I'm very clear on how I feel about a lot of things. I never give you an ambiguous answer. Oftentimes people will tell me something. Perfect example, a friend of mine asked me to meet for lunch tomorrow. Actually, on Sunday, I was supposed to go to lunch with him and his parents and a few other people. And he kept telling me, well, it would be better if we didn't do it on Sunday, but, we're open. And it was kind of like, I finally just replied to him, yes or no, are we going to lunch? Just tell me.
I hate that too.
It drives me nuts. Just give me an answer. Just be honest, be upfront. Literally, black and white. There's no gray. It's not a Venn diagram. There's not a middle spot. Just there's black, there's white. As far as your distinction, not racially involved. We are not by that in any way.
It's more like, where do you want to go eat? I don't know, wherever you want to go.
Oh
no, that's the biggest freaking lie. That's such bullcrap. I'll go wherever you want to go.
The best one. It's like you and your wife are just like, where do you want to go eat? Like, I'm down for whatever. And like you start naming places off, and every single one you name off, she's like, no. Well, then you're not down for whatever. You are not. You are down for what you want to eat. You just didn't come to the conclusion that that's what you wanted.
no, I just don't want Carrabba's. Okay, well, but then you need to say that.
But what about Taco Bell? Oh God, I couldn't eat Taco Bell. It gave me food poisoning. So clearly you're not up for whatever.
You know I like Taco Bell. You know I'm going to propose Taco Bell. You're going to not tell me about the fact that you didn't want Taco Bell when you...
You're just going to shoot me down. It's just, you know what? I'm going to go cry. Just go get some Chinese food.
But nobody likes that. Nobody likes that crap.
Gosh.
People just want decisions. I mean,
that's like the old running joke. I'm going to start my own restaurant franchise called I Don't Know. And anytime your wife looks at you and says, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Great idea.
Good, I don't know.
Let's go. I don't know.
And then you literally just have everything on the menu. Like, don't like seafood? They don't have seafood. Like seafood? They'll make it for you. I don't know. Whatever. They have everything.
Like our menu at I Don't Know will be like as thick as this. It's like more items than the Cheesecake Factory. That's a lot of items.
I hate their menu.
So transparency.
It's way off topic.
It was black and white. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, the point is we want decisions. We want them quick and we want them now, I think. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know.
I mean, we sound impatient when we say that, but I mean, it's not difficult to require information on the spot.
No, it's not. And to be clear, that's how it relates to transparency. It's clear.
Because there's no ambiguity.
Yeah,
it's
there
just,
we go.
It's there. It's like in Photoshop. Like you add sharpness, you don't take it away.
Yeah.
Sharpness adds clarity. If you take the sharpness away, it becomes blurry. We don't want that. We're going to stay on this side.
And the only time you want to blur it is if you're going to put something clear on top of it, like a nice little piece of text or a tagline or something, which you're doing that for the purpose of clarity. You don't want to muddy it up.
If you're putting text over a photo, Comic Sans is always a winner.
No, don't do it. If you don't know what that means, do not listen to him, please. If you are like an internet director and you're going to your dealership and you're going to your GM like, listen, man, I've got this idea. I'm going to put us out there. I'm going to get us marketing and put some ads out there, some PPC campaigns. I heard this guy tell me I'm going to do Comic Sans for the font. Please don't do that. You're gonna hate us and think that we.
It's so funny that we're talking about transparency and here I am trolling people.
That's true. Well, but we were transparent about the fact that we recovered and said don't do that because that's very bad. If you don't know what that means, just Google like why don't you use Comic Sans and you can find articles on it galore.
Oh man, yeah, just
it's hideous.
Oh man. So the transparency, especially in the dealership world, I think from a buying perspective. I think one of the most irritating things for me is it feels like you're being transparent with your pricing or your leasing, but it's like unless you're running a DVR and you pause and read the 3 paragraphs worth of text that's boxed into this little space that's like 0.1 font.
Yeah.
Like that to me, I get it. You have to have disclaimers when you're listing price on TV. I understand that. I worked in 2 different law firms. I understand disclaimers and all the legalities behind it. But it's like some of those are like, hey, you can buy this car and you can lease it for $99 a month. You also must have an 800 credit score with no BKs, no repos. You also have to give us your firstborn child as well as a blood sacrifice. Like, what?
Yeah. And another problem too is like Mike was talking about, you know, you're transparent with your pricing to the point where let's say you actually have maybe you work at a Highline dealership. I know that I've spoken to several people who work at Highline dealerships who are actively doing this. Very successful dealerships. It's not like dealerships selling like 2 cars. So these are legitimate people, great salespeople.
Well, I did talk to the guy at the Ferrari store. I mean, they literally only sell like 2 cars a month.
Well, it's Ferraris. I mean, what are you going to do? Lord, they probably sell like 10 a year.
I mean, seriously, a good month for them is 3.
$200,000 car. What are you going to do? I guess it's a small demographic, you know.
Yeah, you don't buy a Ferrari. That's what you do.
You're probably honestly not selling to millennials if you are at a Ferrari dealership. I mean, that's probably one of the few exceptions. Like if you work at a Ferrari dealership, unless it's in San Francisco and you're dealing with like tech gurus and people with startups and tons of money because they sold their company for like $10 million, you're probably not selling Ferraris to millennials, so this probably isn't super helpful to you. But transparency is still helpful, so this is good.
That's a good point.
That's good. But, you know, like let's say you're transparent with your pricing to the point where you're willing to email it to somebody. Like I said, the guy that I know at the BMW dealership, a couple of different guys and gals that work at other Highline dealerships do this. And, you know, I don't know if your store does, but so let's say you're at that point. Let's say you disclose your actual price I'm not talking about like sending an email that says, oh yeah, the price is around $30K. I'm talking about specifically like the car is $34,995. It's 35 grand exactly. Like that's the price. Not including tax tag and title, but you know what I'm saying. If you're actually willing to do that, you send quotes over email, you do stuff like that over your chat function on your site, assuming you have one and you do it in-house. That's great, but let's say you do that, and then I come to your store because you're transparent, I love it, your site's easy to browse, I talk to somebody on it or over the phone, whatever. Find a car I like, you give me the price, freaking awesome so far. I come to your store, and then when I come to your store, the price doesn't change. You honor that. You keep the price. Okay, fine, that's great. But then just when I'm dealing with your salesperson or when I get to the F&I box or whatever, somewhere along the lines it starts to get a little muddy, and your transparent process that started really, really well online when I get to the store is exactly the same as the old way. And people get that sense. They get there, the paperwork, maybe something goes wrong, maybe you do the Foursquare, right, which is fine. Hey, you can do whatever you want for your sales process, but they see you work in the Foursquare and you're working some numbers over and you give them crap for their trade or whatever happens that you're trying to do, work in the numbers. That's a problem. Like, I think that there's so many people out there who don't get that. You can't, it's not good enough to have the process online transparent, the website transparent, the chat, the phone, email, whatever, and then get to your store and it's the same old freaking news. It's the same game as it always was. That's why we say it's a mindset, not a standardized set of actions, because it's not good enough online. It's not even good enough if just your managers do it, but your salespeople haven't bought into it. Every part of your process has to be saturated with transparency for it to really come across that way. It only takes one person, one step that's not transparent to make you not transparent. It's sort of like, whenever you talk about something and you're watching like politics on TV or something, or you're watching a debate, and it's like someone only has to find one problem with what you're saying to sort of make your statement or your claim void. Like, just they have to find one little problem with it.
It's similar to attorneys, for anybody who's ever actually been a bearer of an actual live case, whether it be civil or criminal. Attorneys quite often, when they are questioning a witness, purposely try to use language that is utterly confusing. I know one case when I was working at a law firm many years ago, God, I'm young, and I'm saying many years ago.
Well, I mean, we're 24 and 25.
That was at least 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Wow, it's still many years. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for us especially. I mean, Lord, seriously. We've only been alive for not even a quarter of a century.
Yeah. So we were in the court, and this guy, even though it drove me nuts because logically and literally, and I do mean literally, made no sense. He would begin every question with the phrase, "Would you agree?" And now this is the part where it got really dumb.
So you have to either say like yes or no.
He would say, "Would you agree? Would you not?"
Oh, okay.
Every single time. And it was like, "Would you agree? Would you not?" Like, wait, first of all, no, stop it. Just hold on. Objection. Can I slap him? Like,
that's a weird way to start a sentence.
Every single question, and I mean like every single time, unless it was a direct follow-up question to that witness, it was the most irritating thing, especially for somebody like me who's a grammar Nazi that's literally going, "No, this doesn't work.
Would you or would you not?"
The English professor that you took your classes with, he's calling. He wants to talk with you. Can you step outside really quick? Like, that to me is almost like when you muddy the process, that's what it feels like to me, is you're starting to use language, you're starting to use jargon, you're starting to use this speak that the average consumer won't understand. And for me, again, as I said, I reference myself all the time. Anytime I find myself in a shady position or getting into a situation where I don't suddenly feel comfortable, or whether I know the terminology or not, I can generally put two and two together logically and kind of figure out what you're talking about. Yeah. If I begin to feel uncomfortable at any point in time, I have no issue walking away. It's not that difficult for me to find another dealership.
And it's not really because, I don't think it's fair for dealers out there to assume that it's because, oh, well, you're a millennial, you don't like to negotiate. You hear that all the time, like, oh, you're just weak. You grew up in a generation where people give trophies to everybody and everybody's a winner, and you don't know how to negotiate because you never had to, and your parents bought you things, and you went to the store, and you're just used to dealing with things at set prices. You know, when I was a kid, I had to go in and barter for my milk and blah, blah, blah. And okay,
well,
fine.
That's fine, but we live in a world now where everything almost is a fixed price.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I'm not claiming that a one-price store is going to be the most beneficial thing to every dealership, but we live in a world now where, I mean, everybody's competing with Amazon. Like, who's going to get the lower price? I'm not saying that lowest price always wins. Customer service always has probably the biggest factor in buying decisions when you're customers. That's the biggest influence you can have. Mm-hmm. But if you're not transparent, if you muddy the waters, if you make things unclear, and yeah, whatever, we don't like to negotiate. I negotiate all the time. I don't care.
But that's not why you left, because you can negotiate.
But when I become uncomfortable because I suddenly realize, let me put it to you this way. If you and I were having a conversation, I'm a drummer, and you simply brought up something like, oh, I like Neil Peart, and all of a sudden, like, you say those words, my brain goes into overdrive, and I start telling you how the shells are put together on his kit, like what plies are, what a bearing edge is, what degree you're supposed to cut it at. I started throwing all this at you, and all of a sudden, unless you're a drummer, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
And you know that because you know that the language is not friendly to non-drummers. So you're aware of it.
Oh yeah, no, it's not at all. But if you're in that situation, you're probably going to either awkwardly sit there and let me finish talking, which is going to take me another 30 minutes, which that's a long time to awkwardly sit there, or you're going to try to excuse yourself from the situation because you suddenly realize, okay, I can't talk, or you're just going to be like, look, I just know who Neil Peart is. I have no idea what a bearing edge is. If you know what a bearing edge is, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know. I'd love to know that there's another drummer out there that I'm talking to on these shows.
Or plus, think about it. Like, think about what you just said, that exact scenario. But, like, let's say you were trying to sell a drum kit to somebody now.
Which I have done.
Right. So now you're a salesperson. Now you're trying to build rapport and establish trust with this person for the purpose of making a sale, which, hey, that's great. That's cool. We all got to make money. Not a bad thing. Perfectly okay to be transparent, but still negotiate with the process and all that good stuff. But let's say you were using that language while trying to sell drums to somebody, even though you knew because of their body language, because the fact that they weren't really engaging with you when you were talking about it, they weren't really using terms back to you in a way that expressed an understanding, you still use the terminology. What would that mean? That would mean that you have a mindset that does not really care about transparency, because you actually know in your head, hey, this person doesn't know what I'm saying. They don't know the terms. They don't get it, but I'm still doing it.
And we're talking about this, and I actually lived this as a salesperson for a drum shop, which I'm still friends with the owner to this day. He actually just brokered a deal for a church. When I worked in the drum shop, they didn't teach me a sales process, but when customers would walk in, it would start with that general retail question, not, hey, can I help you find something? Because that's an immediate no. My question was,
yeah.
What can I help you find? And generally they would say, oh, I'm browsing. Browsing for what? I mean, Are you looking for cymbals? Are you looking for a drum set? Are you looking for percussion? And that was the point in which, in my own mind, of course, I didn't know what a sales process was. This was just me naturally talking. At that point, I would either choose to just engage a conversation with them, kind of ask who they were, and before I even qualified them. But during my conversation with them, I was able to recognize, am I dealing with somebody who's a skilled drummer, a beginner, a novice, somebody who's literally just walking in here because it's 90 degrees outside and we have air conditioning? Like, I was able to recognize that.
You adjust your language accordingly.
You adjust your language accordingly. If I'm dealing with somebody that's a total drum geek, like, I can sit here and talk about that stuff all day.
Right.
But you need to be able to recognize that in your customers, and you also need to be able to relay that information to your F&I department, your managers. Look, they don't really understand car guy lingo. Yeah. Some people do. Mikey probably could go into a dealership and follow any word track that they have that has the most obscene car jargon ever. Me, I'm halfway lost. I can't follow that. I don't even want to. Not my cup of tea.
But the funny thing is, and again, I realize there are a lot of dealerships who aren't doing this, but at the same time, it's like we said on Auto Dealer Live, or like Dave said on last week's show. If you didn't see it, go watch it. But at the end of the show, they were all talking, and they were saying, look, they were harping on a particular subject that's like this. It's one that's kind of talked about frequently. But one of the things they said was, look, we understand that a lot of you guys who are engaging with us on social media, tweeting, commenting on Facebook, and interacting with us over the show in some capacity, like, we understand that you get this because you're type A personality, you're the go-getter, you're the guy who is on social media tweeting at us during the show, absorbing this content. Like, yes, we understand you get it, but there are, I think, 18,000 dealers out there now from 2015 from the reports I've read. There's about 18,000 new franchise dealers out there in the whole country. Not that many people are tweeting at us. There aren't 18,000 dealers representative here. So even though there are a lot of really awesome dealers out there, there are still a lot that are just average and who aren't getting it. That's just facts. That's not even just dealerships. That's just business in general. Like, all businesses are like that. There's always the top group, and then there's the middle group, and there's always the middle group is probably going to be larger than the top group. That's just the way the things skews. That's why there's a freaking bell curve, because the middle part's always the biggest. So we get that a lot of you are doing this. Where's I going with this? I don't even know what I was talking about.
You were the one that I let you run with it, bro.
Oh man, what were you saying before this?
Oh man, we're at that blind leading the blind thing.
This is ridiculous. This is what we were talking about, you know? This is so bad. It was good too. It was on a roll, like, talking about...
You were super on a roll, and then, like, you just...
What was it? I don't know.
I mean, it was literally like you had 10 yards to go to the touchdown, and not even a player. There's not a player within 20 yards of you. Like, you're running for the touchdown, and, like, literally the ball just fell. And
I remember what it was.
And you literally, like, the ball fell, and you didn't even, like, go to pick it up. You kind of stopped and just looked at it. Like, you were just like, huh, yeah. Why did it fall?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. I think the gist of it so we're talking about the fact that, you know, Dave and Tommy were talking about this on Auto Dealer Live, the fact that, you know, everyone gets it, or everyone's saying they get it, but a lot of people don't, and that's why this is still important, because there are still a lot of people who don't get it. And it seems simple, but it's such a big deal. Transparency is so huge, and it's something we deal with, and it's something that matters to us, and it's something that your people have to really internalize. I think that's a key word for you to take home, is you have to internalize it. It's not something you can just regurgitate. It's not something you can just say, hey, here's a new word track. It's a little more transparent. Start sending prices over the internet. We're going to revamp the site. If people get there and they don't experience it, if they don't feel it, if they don't get it from your people, which is what really matters. We always hear dealers talk about how it's always going to be a people business. I agree. And that's why transparency has to be about your people, not just about your process. Process is great, has to be both. We always talk about process, but I think we want to talk about people today, because that's really the biggest part of the experience.
I mean, we're getting ready to wrap up, because we are. Yeah, we're pretty close to wrap up.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes. What are you gonna do?
Whatever. So I think in order for, my last point really to hit on is exactly what I said earlier. I myself very much, when given directions, when given a task, when given anything to do, or told anything, or asked anything, or when I ask somebody, I prefer black and white distinction. I want yes or no. I want it to be clear. I want it to be concise. Whether that's from your pricing to your finance, or even to your employees inside your dealerships, you need to be clear and concise, ambiguous. Hey, really quick, I know it's March 1st. What are my goals this month? I need you to sell cars.
Oh, good.
Now you're saying, is the S on cars like in its own like parentheses there? Like it's the S is completely optional based on the following? Like, is that how that works? No, you need to be clear. Number one, transparency starts from the head down. You hear this with every company. Everybody will tell you it starts from the head down. I'm not saying that every single thing and business decision needs to be publicly made known to every single person in your company. That's obviously, if they need to be included on those decisions, they'd be in a different position. Mm-hmm. You need to be transparent with your employees. You need to be transparent with what your expectations are of them. And you need to be transparent with your customers. Like I said, in the very beginning, I have no issue walking away from a dealership when I suddenly realize that either you're going to try and play me or we're playing this game. I can negotiate all day. I have no issue with that. I understand negotiating is a game. I don't like playing shadow games. This isn't Sherlock Holmes. Let's stop it. Seriously. You have no idea. That's the reason more people would rather go to the dentist than go to a dealership. Number one, it costs a heck of a lot less. But number two, the dentist isn't secretly trying to get you to get 5 crowns. The dentist is like, well, no, you You need to get a crown. I need to do a root canal. They're pretty clear and concise with what they want.
And I think the other thing too is a lot of times when we talk about this, as I said, we talk about process, not people. I think the reason we want to talk about people is because we want to really simplify this. People make transparency such a complicated thing, and I think that's why dealers get so annoyed when they hear it. They get kind of pissed, like, I'm talking about transparency again. What, are we just going to give up our gross? We're just going to have no profit. Our margins are already suffering. And I think there's a frustration involved, which is understandable because a lot of those things are true. Profit margins are suffering. Gross is suffering in certain dealerships. And one of the things we want to do with this episode is really simplify it for you because we think transparency is a simple thing, despite the fact that tons of people have overcomplicated it with processes which are necessary. You need to implement transparency in your process, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think really the biggest thing you can do right now today to make your customers, especially millennials, feel more comfortable with the transaction, with pulling the trigger and signing on the dotted line and making that purchase is making sure that your people have the right mindset, making sure that your people are being transparent. And really, I think the way to simplify the word transparency is clarity. It's all about clarity. So think about when your people are guiding the customer, because that's really what a sale is. It's just leading the customer through the road to the sale. Think about the clarity of that process. Think about how your people are showing and leading your customers through that process. Is there clarity involved? Or is it cloudy? Is it muddy at any point? Is there a point where the customer feels like maybe something isn't disclosed? Even if it's not necessarily true, just over-explain, over-communicate to make sure your customer gets it, to make sure that they know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it and why this fee is here and what's associated with this. And be very, very clear with your language. Don't be the lawyer who uses jargon and F&I terms and all of that to try to make people, buy a warranty. Like, look, just explain to them what it is in real, open, clear, simple terms. Like, you should be, you know what? It reminds me of Reddit, like the explain like I'm five, explain like I'm five. Seriously, think about this. This would be a great training session. Like, if you're doing role plays, use this mindset. Think about like explaining your process, explaining your sales to a customer like they're five. Explain it to them like they're five. Seriously, like use terms that a 5-year-old would understand. Use sentences that are simple that a 5-year-old would understand. You would be surprised. You blow your customer's mind. I guarantee you'll get better reviews online. Your CSI scores will go up. People will love it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, guys, we've got to get out of here. Might actually be early for once in like the past 6 weeks.
That's a first.
Yeah, it's a first. But on that note, I'm Mike Sheriff.
I'm Mikey Oquendo.
Stay tuned for my Starbucks drink of the week. It was absolutely delicious. So this week, I actually want you to imagine, if you will, that you're a child again, perhaps adult. I mean, I have no judgment here. And you wake up one morning and you are craving chocolatey goodness with some creaminess. I mean, general consensus, you probably go find some Cocoa Puffs. That may not be an option in case you didn't happen to buy them.
I have Cocoa Puffs up there.
Yes, he does have Cocoa Puffs. And just might be that you don't have any Cocoa Puffs in your house. Your kids ate them all, and you don't want to spend $8, $9 at Walgreens because it's the nearest place, and they overcharge like crazy.
They do.
Go to Starbucks and get yourself a vanilla bean frappuccino. Add 3 pumps of mocha, 2 pumps of hazelnut. Boom. Tastes just like the milky goodness at the end of a bowl of Cocoa Puffs.
What is mocha? I don't know. I mean, I know it's like a chocolate. It creates like a chocolatey flavor.
Yes.
But like they don't just call it chocolate.
No.
It's mocha.
I just...
Like, no, has anyone ever used that term before Starbucks? I would love to know because I've never heard it before.
Next week on Just a Millennial, we will divulge the true origin of the word mocha.
Yes.
All right, cool.